On today's first, okay, so I had a blog, I had a show yesterday, but that was on my other channel, my personal channel. This is on the original Jesus. And I just want to thank my significant other because she's not allowed to be mentioned. She wants no social media footprint. So thank you to my significant other for creating the logo for this show. So thank you. And there she is. Hello, Romore. How are you? Romore. I'm sorry, not Roy Moore. Romore.
Yeah, don't get that confused. I used to get his hate mail, so just know, yes. But hi, it's good to see you.
Okay, well, I appreciate you being here. Now, just for the benefit of my audience, if you could just tell us what you do in the entertainment industry.
Sure, I am a script supervisor. There's a bunch of other things that I do as well. I am a producer. I have been known to go in front of the camera, but my primary career right now is as a script supervisor.
Okay, so the topic I want to tackle right now is scripty.
Yes.
Do we like that name? Do we like that nickname? Because I know people who are on both ends of it.
Oh my god. Okay, so there's even on the scripty groups and inside the scripty land, people will fight and bicker. I personally don't mind because if you're actually calling for me, I feel like I'm wanted. So it's an amazing thing when I hear scripty. I'm like, yes, me. But I don't have a preference either way. There are a lot of people who get offended by it. I think it's just a quick way. Obviously, please just learn my name eventually. I'm very bad about learning people's names, so sometimes I go up and I'm like, hey, second AC. And then they get the same feelings. So,
Okay.
But yeah.
I think usually the only time when I personally don't talk to Scripty unless I'm talking with the camera guys, and I'll say, well, let's ask Scripty, even though I might know their name. I'm like, well, let's just ask because it's just a nickname people throw out. And so just for the benefit of our audience, for the people who don't work in the who watch this and don't work in the entertainment industry, tell everybody what a script supervisor does.
Sure. Well, a script supervisor is basically handling the continuity of what actors are doing while you're watching it on the screen. Because as most of us know, all films and television series, they're all filmed out of order. It's not done chronologically as you see it unfold on the screen. So we're responsible for when we shoot, say, the scene in the kitchen. If we come back to the kitchen on another day, everything still matches from the props to the wardrobe to the hair and makeup to making sure that the actors say the right lines for the right scene. We're in charge of a lot of that. We also are in charge of taking notes for the editor. So when they get the footage in post-production, they know exactly what footage they're looking at, what takes to use, what takes not to use. If there were any errors, like if a sound card went missing, they know because we'll have it in our notes. So yeah, that's kind of more of what we do.
Okay, all right. So that's interesting. So you're the hidden but crucial part of the TV or film.
Yeah.
Industry.
Essentially, we're like ninjas.
Yeah.
Because if we're doing our jobs right, you'll never know it.
And what kind of long discussions have you had in the past regarding continuity? Have you ever have they ever started shooting something and you're like, whoa, 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 whoa? Not say cut,
Ooh.
but
Well, as far as discussions, because usually all of that happens during pre-production. You get to have those long conversations of okay, Johnny broke his leg, and obviously how much time has gone past in the movie. Is his leg finally healed by scene 25 or scene 30, or is it not till the end of the movie? Because you have to have those kind of conversations, and sometimes it just doesn't say that in the script. But as far as being on set, a lot of it comes down to when wardrobe thinks it's the same day as another scene, and it's not. So then it's a long conversation of how do we reshoot, do we not reshoot. So those are more of the things that happen when you're on the set.
So you're constantly taking meticulous notes, you're writing down whether this was a cut or this was a print or for moving on.
Yes.
Excellent. And has anybody ever argued with you as to whether you're right or not?
Yes. Cinematographers and DPs arguing with me. It's mainly when they want to get creative with the shot. And I love, I am more of a collaborator when I come and approach a job as a script supervisor. So I try to be involved with the director's vision, talk to him, and get the DP's vision, so I know how it might look in the edit, so I can see what pieces we're getting, if they're going to match or not. But essentially, I've had DPs argue when they want to jump what's called the 180.
Oh,
And
right,
that's
right.
the one
Jump
side,
the line.
exactly, jumping that line. And it's always a discussion of, okay, well, how much time do we have? Can we get enough coverage in that time? And will it make sense in the end if we don't get that coverage?
That is always a long discussion on no matter what project you're running. So, someone will come up and say, can I cross the line? And then it's like the DP, the director, the script supervisor,
Yes.
the camera assistant.
Yeah, and then the AD comes in as the ref being like, we gotta go, guys, like, what are we shooting? Yeah.
The AD's going, well, if you guys, those are always like long, sometimes even heated discussions.
Yeah, because like it's a creative medium, it's a creative vision that you're basically altering or affecting, and everybody gets passionate when they're like, we're just trying to make the best project possible. And we all have the same goal, but we all have different avenues and views on how it can be done. So it's always that borderline balance of saying, hey, I love that you want to get this shot. It crosses the line, however, we can't use it, but by all means, sure, we can get it. But it's not going to make the final cut, and having to make sure that you're using time efficiently. So if we waste time because we get the one shot that we know we're not going to use anyway, then what was the point in doing it to begin with? So yeah, it's always a thing.
So do you work hand in hand with the first AD? Are you like right there? Is he like over your shoulder going, is that right? Are we doing it?
That's more the director that ends up doing that. It depends, because every set I've approached is very different. It's sometimes that the director really knows what they want. They really have a good way of executing it. I'm able to see as things are coming together. And the DP and everybody, we're a good team. And then sometimes you'll get directors that it's their first time out of the ballpark. They're like, oh my God, I'm directing a feature, woo! And that's all they can see is, I'm a director now. And they can't see that, okay, we're filming this scene and this is how we're getting it. And I end up having to become their best friend and being like, we're going to make it through this, but I need you to see what's happening. And like having to pull them out and be like, all right, so we got this close-up, we got this close-up, we got a wide shot. What else do you want to tell this story? And what else is it that's needed for you to feel like when you get into editing, you can make this scene pop for you? And it's the same thing with the cinematographers. I work mainly in commercials now, but when I was in narrative, it was a lot of talking with the DP and being like, well, if you want this shot, how do you feel this flowing? And with this scene, and what's the style of the overall film? That's always a crucial question, because if you have a specific style, like look at Mr. Robot. Their cinematography is very stylized versus like Hallmark's, where it's kind of more cookie cutter and what you learn right out of film school. So knowing that and hearing that from your DP, you can help and say, all right, I don't think this is the shot we meant for then. Or you can help pick up on things when we get in a rush, essentially, and be like, I'm your friend. We need this one shot because remember we did the, yeah.
So without mentioning any names, mm-hmm. What was the or the project? Because we don't want to.
No free bumps.
No, yeah. Well, not so much free bumps, but I don't want anybody to like come back and say, "Oh, she was talking about it." But just the situation. What was the most heated argument you got into? Not argument. Let's call it a discussion. Most heated discussion.
Ooh, that's a really good question, because there's quite a few that come to mind.
Well, we've got plenty of time.
This is like such a minuscule thing, but it affects a big picture aspect, and it's happened many times on different kinds of sets, where it comes down to what do we put on slate. And for people who aren't in the industry, the slate is how we keep track of what's on the footage for audio and for video, so that way when it comes into post-production, they can label it accordingly and find it in my notes. Yeah, big deal, but
that is a big deal, because you're like, oh, scene 1, take 1, Apple, beta,
right?
Yeah,
exactly. But I've had arguments where they make a beautiful shot list. Like, and shot lists are great because it gives you a roadmap. It tells you, okay, this is what we need to get, this is what we want to get, all that kind of stuff. But when it comes to directors and production people requiring that I label the slate by what's the shot list, it gets really crazy because I'm like, okay, so we're on shot 2.6 according to your shot list, but now we've lost 2.7 and 2.10 and we're combining it into one. So what do you want me to call it? And that's like, and then your editorial department is looking at this list that they never see because they never see a shot list, trying to match it up with my notes and trying to match it up with what they're trying to make at the end product. It just gets a little crazy. So that's probably, it's a pet peeve of mine. And technically, just for all intents and purposes, the script supervisor is the one that's supposed to know and demand what's on the slate, not anybody else in camera department or anything, because we are direct line to post-production.
Right.
So we know exactly, okay, they need it as scene 1, take 1, scene 1, apple, take 1, or if they have something specific, we know to label it for them because they have their own workflow, especially when it comes to like VFX, like making sure that it says V in front of the slate, so it's Victor 1 alpha or different things like that, versus that's conversations that DPs aren't having and camera department isn't having. So having to explain that to camera department is always a heated discussion.
I can honestly say that I've never worked on a project where the shot list has been like, pre-written out. I mean, there's a shot list, but we've never like gone, okay, so that's going to be cut 1, or take 1, take 2, I've never seen that. This is just this is what we need to get. We've already got this set up. What can we shoot in this? Because once you like set something up, you don't want to be like, ooh, let's go to this next scene. You want to get all the shots from that one angle and then move on.
Exactly, yeah. And I mean, there's been times where I've worked on projects and they just go bananas and they're just like, all right, we're going to shoot everything. And they have it so planned out. And before they know it, we're 6 hours in and they've gotten 2 shots because they've had an insane amount of discussion of how they're going to get the rest of the shots. So I'm like, so we shot nothing, but we had a really good discussion, guys. Like, cool. Yeah.
Okay, can you let's take a discussion about crossing the line. Okay, so what's the most heated debate you got into regarding cross the line? Because that's a heated debate for like everybody who's. It's a heated debate for camera. It's a heated debate for the crew because what do they got to move out of the way for the switchover? It's a heated debate for everybody. So the gaffer, the director, the DP, the AD, the
even the actors get in on it sometimes. And that's like the crazy part is when the actors start telling everybody what they want to do because they're like, no, it's supposed to be like this. But when it comes to crossing the line, the biggest argument that ends up coming up is eye lines, because again, that's something that as a scriptie, that's what I'm supposed to watch is eye lines, make sure that they look like they're looking at each other, alligator A is talking to alligator B or not, one of the two. But that's usually where it breaks down is like, okay, if we're going to cross the line, just know this person has to look like this. And sometimes I've worked with a couple DPs that have short-term memory loss, and they'll be like, oh, no, this actor was looking camera right to left. And I'm like, yeah, that was when we were on the other side, not now. And they'll fight for me to be like, no, it's supposed to stay this way. And I'm like, it's not going to match. It's not going to cut. So it's mainly about eye line, and it's mainly about positioning of the camera and whether or not the shot should be clean, which means it's just of the actor that's on camera, or dirty, where you can see a piece or like usually a shoulder of the other character that they're interacting with, just to give them some grounding. Outside of that, it's also sometimes like if we're in a restaurant, do we have enough props and stuff to jump that 180 line and put them on the other side? So that way it looks full instead of all of a sudden we've got a great cafe on this side and then we have a door and an empty wall and like maybe a few chairs because that's all we've got. So yeah, that's a lot of the heated discussions that happen.
And during this time, are you just like going, hey, look, I'm just trying to tell you what it's going to look like if we do it this way? You're trying to be like, yeah, we can get it done, but these are the problems. You're the catcher. You're the I don't want to say the term, but you're the shit catcher. You're the one that makes sure that no shit goes wrong.
Exactly. And this is funny because when I teach classes and stuff like this, I talk to my students and I'm like, you have to have a positive attitude on set because we are always the bearer of bad news. Like I've had ADs that as soon as I get up out of my scripty chair, they like tense up and they stop breathing. And I'm like, no, it's okay. Like I'm just coming to say hi. It's all right. But yeah, I mean, there's the way that we're supposed to approach it, we're never to be demanding. It's always to be in the best interest of help and in suggestion and in this is, you can, but realize XYZ. And if they're willing to do that, I've done my job. And at least I'm not there to demand it. I'm not there to control the film. Because that's the director's job. Obviously, I'm there to support the director's vision. I don't want to cross and say, look, director, you're not doing your job because clearly this is a technical issue and you have to abide by what I'm doing. But it's always just to suggest and to make it known. And then whatever they do with the information is on them. I always try when I know something like that's happening, because it can become a huge thing, is when a technical thing like that as an error happens, always having a solution before I come to them and be like, hey guys, so bomb drop, bad news, and then walk away, because then you just leave them hanging and they're like, well, how come nobody told us beforehand? So I always try to think, what is the solution when I bring this up? Is it just as simple as we move the camera, we move the actor, we move a prop, or is it, hey, instead of getting this shot, I know we just spent like 10 minutes on this shot, but is it worth an extra 5 minutes to just make sure this is going to be great? And it's making sure that I have that kind of suggestion. But yeah, it's never to demand that things be done a certain way.
I didn't know that they taught. What do you teach? Do they teach script supervision in film school? Because I didn't see any of those classes.
No, they don't teach script supervision in classes or in colleges or anything like
that.
They
probably should, huh?
Mm-hmm. Because it's a pretty crucial role. But I understand. I can sympathize as to why they don't, because you have to have a really good handle on a lot of aspects in the filmmaking process. Even from pre-production, you have to know, okay, so who am I talking to, like makeup, hair, pre-editing in your head. You have to know the editing process. Okay, when they get into post-production, what does it look like? How are these clips and these notes that I'm taking going to be processed in that section? And even being on set, okay, I need to know a little bit about grip so I can say, hey, that C-stand doesn't look right, or this looks blue. And knowing about camera, that's one of my favorite stories, because I was working on a sitcom and I was looking at one of the monitors. It was a multi-cam shoot. We had A, B, C, and D cam. And looking at D cam, it looked like there were lines on the lens. And I was like, this is weird. And I brought it up and they were like, oh, it's probably just lighting. It's probably a lens flare. It actually turned out that there was a thumbprint on the inside of the mirror.
On the inside?
Yeah. So we don't know how that happened. Somebody obviously cleaned the camera wrong, but it's knowing little things like that I can understand and sympathize why script supervision may not be taught in film school, because you're just starting to grasp the idea of most of these techniques. But it is something that I wish film schools did teach. I teach on my own independently. Mm-hmm. Script supervision is basically, it's like oral history, and that's how you learn it. Because I learned from a 25-year vet. He basically taught me through all the classes that he offers, and then brought me on set, mentored me, all that kind of stuff, and brought me up. And I've tried. I try to do the same for my students. I teach at Glendale Community College. I teach on my own, but it's going over like scene matching and the continuity, talking about the 180, how all our forms are. Need to be filled out so they're easily readable for post, and what information needs to be in there, and all those different aspects, even including how do you get a job. That's the biggest crucial question everybody asks. So I have all this information, I have this knowledge, now what do I do with it? So I try to hit on that too, that you can get a job out of this.
And just out of curiosity, how do you get a script supervisor job?
Well, as I tell most of my students, you will get a scripty gig from another script supervisor before you ever will probably from another producer. But a lot of it comes down to networking. You have to be going to the networking events happening in your town, go to film festivals, go to the student film schools that are around you, really meet, talk, and discuss with people that, hey, this is what I'm doing. I love working with AFI.
I've worked on a couple AFI films.
Yeah, like they mirror industry standard like
really
no other. And I love the people that I meet on there because they're all working professionals before they got there 99% of the time anyway. And after they leave, they remember you, which is fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
So I love working with AFI. I love UCLA as well. And these are all obviously California-based schools. And Cal State Northridge is amazing too. there's a lot in LA that you can do to get networking in student films and even start getting experience. After that, go to see different films and go to the screenings where filmmakers are.
Mm-hmm.
Just start talking to them.
And do script supervisors have like Facebook groups and?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we have like script supervisors with an exclamation point. We have non-union script supervisors. There's also a group here in LA called LASSN. And that's a more private in-network script supervising group for people who are here in LA. And we discuss different jobs, different aspects of the position, all that kind of stuff. And we have monthly meetings on the first of every month. So if you're interested and you want to learn more, or if you are a script supervisor, you're just like, hey, it's a very lonely department, so it's nice that we can have
Because it's just you.
Yeah, exactly.
You're your own department.
Exactly, and it's always funny because during the safety meetings when they're like, make sure you have a head count of your whole department if something goes wrong, and I'm like, me. If I'm not head counted for me, I guess nobody knows what happened to me. But yeah, I mean, it's nice to have a group like LASSN and those Facebook groups to really be able to bounce ideas and be like, hey, this is what I'm encountering. Has anyone else encountered this? And you'll either get a resounding yes and explanations and how you can handle it, or you'll get a no, that's not normal. So it's really nice to have that kind of support.
Good. So can anybody join SSN, or is this a is it invite only?
It's not necessarily invite only, but it is more private. You do have to show that you are working in Los Angeles as a script supervisor. Different situations like that, as far as saying, hey, I just worked on this project. This is what I'm doing. I am planning to pursue this. We are just trying to keep it to script supervisors, so it's not like if you're a producer, we don't service that because
Right.
it's for us, because producers have PGA and other things too. So like, but it is something that for script supervisors, we like to vet them, essentially, is the way to put it.
So there's no script supervisor union?
There is. There's
Oh,
local,
there is.
Yeah, there's Local 871. It also now services a lot of other crafts, including like writer's assistants. They just became repped. Yay, go them. But they're part of our union now too. So, and the biggest difference is with 871, unless you're union, there's not a lot that you can come to. And I did kind of realize that before I joined, because I went to the office and I was like, hey, I'm Ro, I'm a script supervisor, I'm up and coming, I'm planning to become union, I want to learn more. And I was kind of like, they handed me a book and then let me go, and I was like, I want to be part of you someday, like, be excited. But I mean, now, it was a really weird feeling. I was like, I don't know if I want to be union now, you guys don't like me. But now from like joining, like, there's a ton of things that you can do. They do Dodger game nights. They're actually about to do a night at the horse races where you get to go and network with other scripties while watching horse races. We have like a holiday party. We now do a monthly or bi-monthly trivia night where you can come in and network with all of the people in the union and just have a fun time. So yeah, there's different things like that.
Well, I personally never got into the union because I don't want to get into it, but there are reasons why I didn't get into the union.
Yeah, after the
But
latest negotiations,
that seems to be a very, very social union.
Yeah.
I've never heard anybody said, well, at the grip mixer at
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how
at the local 80 mixer.
Yeah, I mean, I'm lucky too because I'm a member of the Television Academy.
Oh, okay.
So I actually got to go to the DGA Emmy reception, and that was fucking amazing. Sorry,
You can cuss. You can cuss. Fuck, shit, cunt,
dude,
dick, whatever you want to say.
Okay, but I cannot stress enough how fucking amazing it was because I didn't know who was there because it was DGA, and I'm like, cool, I'll just go. I happened to be like shooting the shit with the director who was nominated for the Game of Thrones Emmy, and I'm like, you don't even know who I am, oh my god, and like just meeting everybody was just phenomenal. So like there's other social unions, I guess. But yeah.
Okay, all right. So the the DGA throws some shindigs. But,
Yes, and pretty amazing. They had fresh sushi where like the sushi people like came in and made it. It was amazing.
So can you talk about what you teach at the college in Glendale?
Sure. So I teach script supervision.
Oh, it is script
yeah.
supervision.
Yeah, that is what I teach. So
Oh,
I go
okay.
into the different. It's a 6 weeks class that I take or that I do with them. So we start off with the basics of like what is a script supervisor, what do you need to get started, what's the difference between pen and paper and being digital, which is another argument, sort of like the word scripty. You kind of have to know who you're talking to and why you're talking to them about that. But how you get started in those two realms. I talk about like when you get on set, what does set look like? How does it feel? Where do you fit in as a puzzle piece to the different parts of being on set? Like you have to know what first shot is. You have to know when lunchtime happens, you have to write that down. It's called progress reports and facing pages, which is where we take our notes, and what the editorial log, which is the Cliff Notes version of your facing page, what the straight line and squiggly line are on the script. Like, you'd be amazed. Every time I teach that, people are like, mind blown. What's this straight line and what's this squiggly line? It's amazing. So, yeah, that's a lot of, I go more in depth on everything in that.
And so are you a digital or are you analog?
I was analog for a really long time, for about 3.5 to 4 years. I've been script supervising for going on my 6th year now. But I was pen and paper until I lost my 4th job because they said, we need you to be digital.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I was very shocked because it was a producer that knew my work, worked with me many times, but because I wasn't digital, said I could not get hired on the job. And so I was like, okay, well, if I have to go digital, I'm going to do it on my terms. So I essentially turned everything that I do pen and paper into like Word and Excel files, and I got Adobe Pro and a computer that has a touch screen so I can use a pen. And so it's basically on pen and paper, but I'm on a laptop.
Right.
It satisfies the digital learn.
That's how I've mostly seen it done.
Yeah.
Let me think. I don't think I've ever seen a analog scripty. No, wait a second.
With a big fat binder and
with
like
a big
7,000 pages.
Yeah, no, that's wrong. I worked on a USC project that she had.
Wow.
She had her big binder for that. Yeah.
Yeah.
She was totally analog.
Yeah, it's interesting because like digital script supervising has a lot of different aspects to it now. You can be on Peter Scarrett's, which uses like FileMaker Pro or another organizing program to make sure everything gets taken care of correctly, or you can go straight onto Script E. Not my favorite, but it's just counterintuitive on a lot of aspects. That's why I don't like it. But there's also 2 up-and-coming products that are, one's called Recorder, and the other one is slipping my mind, but it's Movie Maker Pro or Movie Pro something. I'll find it, and if people want to, they can email me, and I'll send it the info. But those 2 are cheaper versions of Scripty with less bells and whistles, essentially. So you can still take notes, you can still take the information, you still get time code and all that, but Recorder is just set up a little bit more user-friendly and much more basic. So, yeah, there's a lot of options on that side of the world.
You know, I honestly thought that it was just like a digital version of the script that you got, and that's all you needed. I didn't know you needed a whole new program.
Yeah.
And I didn't know, and I definitely didn't know there was more than one out there.
Yeah, like the Scripty's been out for a long time, but the other 2 came out like the last year or 2. And they've really been trying to get that business and get us interested in using it. Obviously, I still love my pen and paper. I can take much more thorough notes. My memory's much better because when you write it down, it's different. When you type it, it's kind of like, okay, it's there. But I also have a bad habit sometimes, and this is maybe bad to admit, but I have a bad habit of when I'm looking at a screen, I zone out. Like, monitor's different because I know what I'm paying attention to. It's work. But I'm on a computer 98% of my awake life, whether it be my phone, whether it be my tablet or my laptop. So, like, I'm used to autopilot on it, I'll call it, to where, okay, we take some notes. All right, now let me switch to Facebook. Or, like, and it's a lot of, like, when I'm pen and paper, I know I have a purpose and I know what I'm doing and I can stay present to that. Versus sometimes I'll catch myself on set and I'll be like, oh yeah, I'm taking notes. Like, and when did they sit down? Because I can't just immediately mark it on the paper script.
Right.
And I've kind of gotten a workflow now where I just use my sides as my pen and paper script, and nobody needs to know. And it's awful too, because I've been on sets. Like I worked on. I know you said you don't not to use names, but I love this show. I work on Lucha Underground, and
Okay.
I mean we get on the roof. And if you think I'm carrying my laptop up to the roof when we have to use like one of those, you're a grip, I'm sorry, one of those lift things that take you up the side of the building and then get on the roof
Scissor
from
lift?
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, a scissor lift. Yeah, I'm not taking my laptop up there. So like in moments like that, it's just really easy to be like, oh cool, I'm pen and paper again, I'm doing it, like, and then laughing afterwards because I'm like, yeah, there's no way I could have been digital up there.
What someone would say is like, you need a tablet.
Well, even then, yeah, sure, a tablet's great, but if I run out of power
Oh, that's true.
and if I drop it,
That's true.
oh my. Versus I drop my binder, okay, maybe a few pages rip.
Right.
Like,
Right.
I don't have to plug in my binder, maybe my light if it's a night shoot, but like, yeah, you'd be amazed, because we didn't bring up any power up there, so.
So you got to be versatile. You got to have your analog and your digital.
Exactly. And well, the other aspect too I'll bring up, and maybe this is something you're unaware of too, but like the digital side of things only resolves maybe 20 to 30% of our job.
Oh, really?
It only resolves us taking notes, having the reports done in a timely manner, and making sure that we have everything in one place, ready to go as a digital file. The rest of the aspect of the job is paying attention to the actors, making sure they're saying the lines right. What are their actions? What are the blocking? What did the director want for this scene? How is it going to cut? Like all that other aspect. And this is the other big bone that we all pick with each other as scripties is like, yes, you can be great and know how to work the scripty program or your best digital aspect, but if you don't have a handle on all this other stuff that a script supervisor is supposed to do, you're eventually going to fall off the map and people are going to stop calling you or people are going to have such low standards of what a scriptie does that when someone like me comes in and starts doing all this other stuff, they're like, wait, what? No, that's not what you do. Or they start getting a little bit questioning, being like, well, did I just have a bad scriptie? And then I don't want to make another scriptie look bad.
Right.
But I got to do my job to what I know it is. So it's really difficult sometimes when you think about it that way.
You brought up an interesting subject because when you're on set and an actor forgets his lines, you're the one who like said the line is blah, 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 blah. Mm-hmm. Now, there's also another time when the scriptie is vocalized when with actors while we're shooting, and that's when the other actor isn't there to deliver their lines. So my my question is, how into it do you get when you're working with another actor?
Oh my god, I love it. Well, I was an actor first.
Okay.
So
okay.
let me just like backtracking my history. I was an actor first. Like I got started in this whole entertainment industry thing because I wanted to be an actor. But it wasn't working out so well, so that's why I was like, well, what's the next best thing I could do? Well, hey, scripty looks fun. But I love it, and I will. But the thing is, I will always be courteous to the other actor.
Right.
So I will ask them, is it okay if I play with you?
Oh, okay.
And if they say yes, you better believe I'm gonna back the hell out of that shoot. Like, I know I'm not on camera, but like, it helps the actor, it helps them feel comfortable, it helps the director, because then if they have someone to play with, the performance looks better. There are some actors that I've gone to and been like, hey, do you want me to play with you? And they're like, no, just give it to me flat, it's straight, I can do the rest of the work. And it's like, okay, I have to respect them because that's their way of approaching it. But it got to the point, again, to bring up my favorite show, Lucha Underground. Like, the director, Skip, I was working with him, and we had a voiceover character. So, of course, I got to do that voiceover all the time. And it was for a creepy doll. Even better, because I was practicing my Halloween voice and being like, hello, I can see you now. And, like, so I was like, yes, I have a place to put this. So I finally got the guts to get up. And, like, we did rehearsal. I did it normal, and I let the actors know. And they were like, yeah, if you want to play, by all means. I did it the first take, and the director turned to me and was like, okay, I need you to just do this. Can you tweak this here? And I was like, wait, am I now what? Like, I'm just playing. Like, what? But he was, like, directing me, and if you watch the show, it's my voice.
Oh, I know. Where do I see this show?
It's on El Rey Network. So I think
Right.
there's episodes that are on the website. It aired over the summer, so I don't know if there's still episodes airing. But yeah, it should be on their website or on YouTube or something like that. But yeah.
Okay. I don't have cable, so I know I can watch it on YouTube then.
Yes.
And do you ever get stressed out? I'm just...
What stress? No, it does become rather stressful, especially on a feature film when, okay, you're on day 8. Usually feature films nowadays shoot 15 days, which I think is
ridiculous.
Yeah, I think it's really to the detriment of everybody. Why not just raise an extra 100K and then have 20 days where we're not like pulling each other's hair out at the end of it? But by usually day 8, I'm looking at how much has been filmed because we time every scene as we go. And all of a sudden I have to report, hey, this film's already looking like it's 100 minutes and we're on day 8. Like we are halfway through the script. Like you're going to have like a 200-minute movie, and that's not what anybody wants to hear, especially if they're supposed to deliver like a 120-minute movie and all of a sudden they have a 200-minute movie. What are you supposed to do? What are you supposed to cut? All that. But that usually causes concern when the director's not good at keeping chaos in. That's another fun one. Like there was a feature film that I worked on, and it just became such a nightmare because by day 10 the director had stopped caring.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the director just stopped caring. And like there was like we were in the middle of a scene, his phone rang, he turned to me and said, "Ro, I need you to direct from here," and walked out of the room to take his phone call. And I was like, what? Like, I'm not a director yet. Like, yeah, so.
I understand what you mean because I worked on an AFI. Was it AFI or UCLA? I don't know. It was a student thesis film.
Mm-hmm.
And the director said it was lunchtime, so he's like, I'm going to go to lunch with my girlfriend. And we're like, okay, fine.
Cool.
An hour and a half later,
Oh, no.
he still wasn't back.
Oh, no.
Then, when we're setting up for a shot, he just kind of went, I'm going to go 10-1, 10-1 for everybody. I'm going to go to the restroom. And he was gone for like 45 minutes. And I'm like,
yikes.
dude. And what made me the angriest about it is that on the last day, we had 3 setups at 3 locations.
Mm-hmm.
And we shot all night long. Like we were there at, it was over a 12-hour day.
Yeah, which usually AFI, they don't allow that to happen at AFI.
Yeah, but
Wow. Yeah, I mean, that kind of chaos is just, it happens. And it's just usually poor planning, poor communication, poor pre-production. It's just like, and as a script supervisor, like, there's only so much I can do to save it.
mm-hmm.
Before I have to say, look, this is where my line ends and this is where somebody else's responsibility is supposed to start. And they're not there. And I'm not quite comfortable stepping into that because it's not my job. So, I mean, it just, that's when it gets heated and that's when it gets stressful.
So what did you say to the director?
Well, I let the AD know once we cut, because I at least called cut when the scene was over, because I was like, well, he's not back. And I just let the AD know what the situation was, and he went and handled it with the director and the producers.
Okay.
The director continued to not care, but at least when he took a phone call, he just stayed at monitor.
What? He stayed at monitor?
Yeah. And like in the middle of the conversation, he'll be saying something, blah, 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 cut. Moving on. You're like, all right, I mean, I guess that was good. And that made it stressful on me because then I had to look at it and go, all right, so is this going to even cut? Is the continuity fine? Like, and it became something that I had to be over caring of to make sure that even this director was going to look good. But I didn't want my name to look bad because none of us do. So, of course, I step up a little bit and try to help, but it's like, it gets hairy there because I don't want them to get into post and then the director be like, oh, that's not what I wanted, blah, blah, blah. And they look at my notes and I'm like, Ro helped to direct because she had to. Like, because I put that in my notes. I'm like, guys, stepped up a little bit. Sorry, post. You know, and then they tell the director and they're like, of course. Like, it's like, oh, well, you know, I tried. But, yeah, I mean, that's when it gets stressful. It gets stressful, too, when there's multiple cameras and it's a run and gun shoot. You just pray.
Just out of curiosity, how often has that happened to you?
Which part? The run and gun or like the director being crazy?
The director being crazy.
Not as often anymore. As it used to happen a lot just because of the lower budget things. Like it's not that they don't have the money to feel that they need to be professional, but it is more of those entry level, this is first timerville. They don't quite understand a lot of it. And of course I was there too. Like I get it. It happens. But it's marching through that and being able to come away from that stronger and away from that with growth. So yeah, very early on, and maybe I get now one or two shoots a year where it's a little bit like that chaos, but it started to weed itself out.
And what drives you the craziest as a supervisor? Because I'm sure that there's something that you're like, oh, Lord.
Oh man. When the actors try to direct, that drives me nuts because, again, the actors are only privy to so much information. It drives me nuts, too, when I have a snobby DP, and it's like, I have nothing against you. All I'm doing is, like, I've had DPs get so snobby with me that when I come up to them asking for what the lens is, they go, oh, you don't need to know. And I'm like, well, my report right here has a column for lenses, and your second AC said he's not taking notes, so somebody needs to, because this is a VFX shot, maybe? I don't know. Do you want to help post team? But yeah, usually if I start feeling like I'm rubbing a DP wrong, or right off the bat, that's like my biggest pet peeve. Or if like, yeah, that and Crafty, please needs to be good.
Oh,
yeah.
Yes. For anybody who is working or is putting together a production or doing anything like that, you can keep your crew very happy, even though they're getting low paid, if you just have good craft service.
Oh my God, I cannot tell you, like, and on the lower budgets, I don't know what it is. They seem to have forgotten that role. So they'll show up with Trader Joe's as a Costco run. And I'm like, this is cool, guys, but where's my fruit?
Yeah.
Can I just get something simple?
We're not asking for a lot, just some fruit, something that doesn't have a bunch of carbohydrates in it,
Yeah.
you know?
Like, and that's the thing, and I don't know if it's just because, again, because on those, usually it's a PA doing craft services. So they're thinking this is Partyville. Sometimes they're like, all right, so what would I get for a party? Let's get the meat tray, let's get the cheese tray, like, let's get these nice processed cookies, which, you know, it's all great and fair and well, but like, yeah, it just doesn't sustain you through the day. And then halfway through, like, I try to do better because I gained a lot of weight eating a lot of good craft services on a lot of good sets. But at this point, I try to be very picky and choosy when I go to crafty and what I eat. But like, there were times where I was like, I'm not going to eat anything off this table. And then by the time lunch comes, especially if catering's terrible, there was a shoot I was on, and like literally the caterer was giving us third day leftovers from another shoot. And yeah, and we figured that out because the buns on the hot dogs and the buns on the hamburgers were starting to mold.
Oh, gross.
Yeah, and we like brought it to the caterer's attention. They were like, oh, well, you know, they're not paying a lot, so, you know, we had to kind of make things work. And I was like, so what? Like, no, that's not how you make things work. But yeah, I mean, that breaks your heart when you're on the set that's like, okay, I can't even eat crafty, and then for lunch I couldn't even do anything, and I can't drive away because we had to park at crew parking 7 miles away, and there's nothing to Postmate, like, because we're in the middle of nowhere. Yeah, that's like the worst.
I think, and this was an AFI shoot, we were out in Santa Clarita, and I think the average temperature on those 3 days was 110 degrees.
Oh, yeah.
And we ran out of water. On like day 2, we were out of water.
Oh, Jesus.
And it's not like there were water bottles. We had literally to bring our own water bottle, fill it up, go down to where craft service was, fill it up, come back, and get to work. So after day 2, Dave Willawaco, who was like a grep, he's like, fucking bring in an ice chest, bro. We're not going another day without water, because in 100 again heat, as a grip, as an electrician, you're lifting heavy equipment. You're losing a lot of water weight.
Yeah, you guys do like all of the heavy shit. Like I try not to complain when I'm on set because yes, I get a nice little chair 90% of the time, and yes,
And
I'm
a courtesy.
made by you guys.
Yeah.
Like, so I can't complain because I'm not the one moving my own courtesy and having to go to the truck and back and like then being told to light this section when you get told an hour later, oh, it's not that section, it's that section. Like that's insane to me that you guys deal with that. I would probably lose my cool within like 7 hours of doing with that. But like, I mean, I did a shoot up in Bakersfield in the middle of summer, and we were in the oil fields with no shade.
Oh, Jesus.
And like, we had a similar situation, and it's like you got to think ahead of that. But that's something, again, pre-production, you've got to plan that. But yeah,
Yeah, I think I had to stop working one day because there just wasn't enough water. I didn't bring any with me.
Yeah.
But day 3, I was good to go.
Right.
I had water bottles, Gatorade. I had everything I need to make sure I stay hydrated and enough electrolytes.
Yeah, and like that's the thing that kind of makes me, I don't know, I don't understand how to make that part of our industry green. I know there's been quite a few sets that are like, oh, we're going green, so bring your own water bottle. I'm like, so is water bottle going to be right next to director's monitor? Or am I going to have to walk like 3 miles and possibly miss that we're rolling because I'm on my way back? Like, it's an interesting, I don't have a solution. It's just something that I'm always like, why are we doing a green set, guys? I get it, but it's hard with water.
Yeah, because if anybody's ever worked on a set or if you don't never been on a set, there's a lot of water bottles.
And half-drunk water bottles.
Half-drunk water bottle. That drives me nuts. I'm like...
Yeah.
So for anybody who's listening, anybody who wants to get into the film industry, if you have a water bottle, just bring yourself a Sharpie marker, write your initials on the top so you're not going, which one is mine?
Yeah, and then you just go right back to the like nice little cooler and you go, okay, new water bottle. What? Yeah, like it's insane.
But I do like working on when craft service comes around. Like, there's a set area. Okay, so you know you're working on a good show when this is the difference between a good show and a bad show, or budget. It has to do with budgets.
Yes.
You can work on a terrible low budget. I mean, a good low budget film, but this when they have some money, they've hired a catering service that. Not only can you go to craft service and there's a nice selection, then somebody comes around with a little tray of goodies.
Yes, and they bring you nice fresh squeezed juice, or they bring you nice fresh made like deviled eggs. Like it's amazing and incredible because as a scriptie, like I'm stuck on set. And,
right.
Like with the director and the DP, we very rarely leave. Like when we do, it's usually because lighting's happening and we're like, okay, 30 seconds, go, run back. Like that's it. So when that craft services person is willing to come and bring me a tray of something, I'm like, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I always take it even if I don't eat it. I just want them to know that it's like, I appreciate it and I want it. Keep coming back.
I don't like cheese, so I don't take it if there's cheese on it. That's a question I ask every time. Is there cheese on that?
Oh yeah, like and I've learned now that I need to send a little notice because I'm allergic to nuts.
Oh,
and
yes.
With the health craze, everybody's like almond milk this or nuts this, and I'm always like, oh, does this smoothie have almond milk? And then I look at them and go, I'm allergic to nuts, thank you, and I still take it.
Oh really?
And then they come back and they're like, well, are you gonna drink it? I'm like, no, I just wanted you to know I want one. So and most often they're really nice about it. They go and they make me one with regular milk or whatever. But
right.
yeah, it's a thing. I love it.
Yeah. Wow, you're allergic to nuts. Like all nuts or?
Yeah, including coconuts.
Including coconuts?
Yeah. It's a thing.
The biggest of the nuts.
Yes.
Okay. So, have you ever gone on to a set and you're working with people you don't know, which I don't know, do like, here's a better question.
Okay.
Are you like a DP has his crew, has his camera crew that he works with quite often? When it comes to being a script supervisor, are there groups like who hires you and does the director say, oh, I want this script supervisor, or the producer say, oh, this script supervisor is good? Do you have like repeat business, I guess is what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, I usually get repeat business through either a director or a line producer or just a regular producer. Those are usually my people who call me. more often than not. Sometimes I'll get the occasional call from like a makeup artist that has put my name in, or a wardrobe lady who's like, yeah, I love working with her. She's always on top of her stuff. But the call usually comes from a line producer, or the director will call and say, hey, I've got this new project. I'm bringing you on. And I'm like, cool, fantastic. The first AD, sometimes if I've left a really good impression, I have gotten like 1 or 2 referrals from a DP or from an AD. So yeah, DPs usually, I don't hear that they've referred me. But again, it's not my, we don't necessarily work together a lot. Like if the DP's doing a great job and I'm doing a great job on everything else, like
you guys won't even talk to each other.
Yeah, I'll say hi, I'll talk to him at lunch, and then I'll say bye. Like that's most of it. Yeah.
And because you're working with all the different departments, because you work with wardrobe, because wardrobe takes a picture of every costume that the actor's in, and you got to keep track of that.
Exactly.
And you also work with makeup, because you got to make sure that they're wearing, like if there was a bruise on her eye one time, there's got to be a bruise on her eye again.
Yeah.
So is coordinating it all together like difficult? You've got to be on top of it. Do you feel like you have to be on top of it more than everybody else?
Yes.
Because you're in so many pies? And what difficulties do you come across dealing with so many different departments?
Oh, that's a very amazing question. I love that question. Thank you. Because more often than not, a lot of those problems when they happen on set could have been resolved in pre-production. I wish I got hired on more early on, especially on features or TV series, web series, what have you. I wish I got hired on earlier in the process.
So about when do they usually hire a script supervisor?
In my experience, I usually get a call either the day before. I know.
Okay.
Yeah. Or I get a call maybe 3 or 4 days before, and I'll ask them, okay, can I meet with the director? Can I, sit down, and do I have time, or am I getting paid to do prep days? Because I think the biggest misconception is that I don't need to prep. I just show up and I just all of a sudden know everything. But in those prep days, that's when I get to break down the script, and I go scene by scene and go by prop to character, and I make sure, because I have to know it better than anybody else on set. At least that's that's the bar I set for myself.
That's set for yourself, right?
You can get away with knowing less, or just like at least knowing what the written word is, but I like coming in knowing even more than the director, to be like, okay, well, this is what's happening. And when you do that and you bring me in earlier than that 4 or 5 days before you shoot, I can sit down with hair and makeup and say it's a black eye. And that we see like 3 or 4 days pass during the script that he's on camera. We can plan, okay, in scene 8, it's full black eye, so we know it's going to be full, everything's there. And then in scene 7, it's still going to be there, but we can start seeing some of the yellow in it. And then by scene 12, we're seeing a little bit less purple, but more yellow, but it's almost healed. And then by scene 15, it's healed. And we can mark that down and be like, okay, cool. So we all are on the same page. Versus if you wait and you bring me on 24 hours before, and I'm like, okay, scrambling, and then we get to that day on the film shoot where we're shooting scene 8, and then we don't come back to scene 15 until like 3 or 4 days later, there's been no discussion of how that's going to heal or how that can look. So that can kind of take time from being on set, because then we have to go, okay, well, it's better, but it's not, and then we have to look at logic, and when we could have that conversation in pre-production. So, yeah.
So what would be the, so you would ideally like to be brought on like 5 days before, a week before, or just give it as much prep time as possible?
Yeah, I almost had the luxury. The film ended up not shooting, but they brought me in 2 months early.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they brought me in 2 months early, mainly because they were still doing revisions on the script, but they wanted to see what the continuity looked like in the draft that they were in. And then they went like 2 weeks, and then they had me do another continuity breakdown and be like, okay, so this is what we're looking at, just to make sure that as the screenwriter was deleting and adding and changing things, that it still made sense, because it wasn't necessarily a time travel movie, but it was a horror film where the character falls into this carnival tent, and he's going through different eras of time.
Okay.
And those times start to mix. It's kind of like how Cabin at the end, where all of a sudden you realize you're just in this rotating thing of different scary things that come out at any given time. So we had to have some kind of straight timeline and everything. So that's why they brought me in early, to keep those timelines straight. Unfortunately, the film lost funding, so we never actually got to do it. But it was nice to be able to be in there and have the discussions with the director. And I felt like had we been able to move forward, we all would have had no problem doing it because we knew where we were at any given point in the script.
So a lesson to anybody who's shooting something with a lot of visual effects or a lot of time transitions or shooting backwards and forwards in time.
Yeah.
Hire your script supervisor early.
Yes. Yes, indeed.
And obviously you're in all the departments and do you ever drive set design crazy?
Yes, every once in a while, because, and maybe some of it is because the people who I've worked with on set that do set design or props or anything like that. But sometimes they're not present when the conversation happens of like, okay, well, we did take one this way. I didn't like how this prop went, so we're getting rid of it. And then everybody will call last looks, and they're rushing in with the prop that we decided to get rid of, and then I have to fly in and be like, no, that's not what we wanted. And then they're looking at me like, what are you talking about? Like, I have the picture, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I know, but you weren't here for the conversation. We decided to nix that. So sometimes that'll drive a props person or an art department person crazy. They love it when I drive them crazy about the clocks in the scenes because they're like, I think it's 4:30, and I'm like, actually, this is 10:30 at night. And they're always like, well, why? And I have to explain to them all of that. But that's where I usually drive them crazy. Usually they're grateful for me, especially if it's like a series of props being picked up. I can tell them in what order, all that kind of stuff. But like, yeah, it's crazy sometimes.
So before you ever take over like somebody's home as a location, set design goes and takes pictures of everything. Do you get a copy of those as well? So no, that just stays with them.
Yeah, that stays with them because by the time that we're wrapping out, I'm usually in my 1 hour wrap. So I'm cleaning up my notes. I'm making sure that the producers have everything for me. If there's anything else they need, I'm checking in with director. I'm checking in with like wardrobe and hair and makeup. Like I very rarely have anything to do with how this house was set beforehand.
So being digital, do you still have to have a binder?
I do. I bring one on set anyways because it usually handles my continuity breakdowns, and so that way it's my little quick at a glance. Hey, we're doing scene 6, so what is important per script or what we've shot so far pertaining to scene 6. So I always have that binder with me. Yeah, I mean, I'm afraid to lose that because again, I could end up in a location with no power and then my laptop's dead.
Right. So do you keep your binders after you're done? Like this is what I'm kind of wondering. Okay, so you've just finished shooting. Let's say you just shot with Steven Spielberg, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna keep this binder. Do you like make copies of binders of shows that you like, or?
Yeah, I mean, and this is something I teach my students too. Is you always hold on to the originals. I learned that very early on that you hold on to your originals because even on AFI shoots, I would sometimes hand over my original notes. And granted, they're students, so I didn't foresee this, but they'd lose them. And so I'd get a call a week later from the editor saying, hey, do you have a copy of the notes because I lost them?
Ooh.
And then I go, no, I don't. I gave you my originals. So I've learned to always keep my originals, and I have, like, at home, I think in my bookcase, I have 17 binders divided from commercial projects to featured projects to short films to, like, TV, web series. Like, I have a ton of binders that have just my experience, and I bring those to interviews.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I do, because it's really interesting how much, even if you have it on your resume and you come across as a professional, they're still like, I don't believe you. Sometimes. And I'm like, all right, here, like, I'll bring 2 or 3 binders that I think pertain to the job that I'm about to do and just show them, okay, well, this was, like, if it's a horror film, this was the horror film I did. This is the notes that we did. This is how I prepped for it. Like, just to show them that what they can expect from me.
And do you keep the ones that were the most complicated? So you're like, look what I can do. And how long do you keep them for? Because obviously for every project you run, you can't keep a binder for ever. And I mean, I guess
I
you
do. I never get rid of any project.
Oh, really?
I still have notes from my very, very first project called The Hike.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and that was back in 2010. Something crazy like that? Yeah. Like, I still have the notes. I will never get rid of them because they're great teaching tools for me to show everybody this is where I messed up or this is where I wish I could have done more. Because I love going back and reviewing them. Like, there's no better way to learn and grow than seeing where you were and how you've come. So I'll never get rid of them.
So have you ever, like, you wrap for the day, you're prepping for the next day. Have you ever gone like, oh, we shot something like this in my notebook. Let me see how. Do you like go back and look and see if like, ooh, maybe there's some problems that we solved. Doing the same thing. Do you ever do that?
Yeah, sometimes I do, especially like if the project is already out in distribution and I can at least see, okay, how did they edit it? Because I know what the raw footage was. I know what the editor had to work with. So yeah, sometimes I'll go back and watch that project and try to foresee and be like, oh God, so we never used that close-up or that insert. All right, so if we go into this and we were ready to shoot an insert, I'll be like, guys, like, this is not the style. Like, you're not going to need that. And it's funny because sometimes, like, again, because our position is to suggest, not to demand. And sometimes I'll go up to the AD and I'll be like, we can do it, but I can almost guarantee you it's going to end up on the editing floor. And it's just having that confidence to be able to say that and not offend anybody. It's just like, this is, if you're thinking about it in the scale of things, because again, like I said, this is why the position probably isn't taught in school, because you've got to have a great handle on how things come together in post and what editors may need or may not need. You got to have that understanding. But yeah, I mean, that's conversations that I bring up on the day. Is I'm like, okay, well, this was, if we look at this and that's how it was done, like that's not going to be used.
So how often are you watching projects that you've worked on, flipping through your notes?
I would say at least, especially now that I teach, because I'm always trying to find examples of when I effed up. Because at least then I can own up and I can be like, this was the conversation on set that occurred, and this is why I made the bad decision. So I watch them pretty often. And it's always a technical thing. I never can watch a film that I worked on just to enjoy the heck out of it. I can't. Like, I'm just always like, oh my God, I can't believe they did use that cut. Like I said, do not use. But like, yeah, I mean, I try to watch everything that I've done.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. We've been talking for like an hour and 20 minutes now.
Yeah. I told you I could talk your ear off about Script Soup, dude. I love it.
You could talk my ear off. I feel like this is really something that like I know very little about because, the only time I ever talk to a script supervisor is if I happen to know the script supervisor and we worked on a film together. I'm like, oh, hey, Nora, how you doing? Blah, blah, blah.
Or you're setting up a courtesy.
Or I'm setting up a courtesy or let me know if you're going to move or things like that. What do you think, when you're teaching, what do you stress most for when you're teaching script supervision? Is it important to let them know that yes, you're going to make mistakes and just to roll on, or do you teach them that like it's okay to make suggestions, but without being too mean? And I don't know what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I totally get what you're saying. You're trying to be like, well, what is it that if I had to put bullet points next to what I teach,
right?
What do I want my students walking away with? And like number one is attitude. Like even when you're in the worst circumstance and the director walks out of the room in the middle of the take and tells you to start directing, like do you become a raging bitch, like, or do you just kind of sit back and go, well, these are the cards that I've been dealt. All right. And smile and go through it. I mean, attitude for sure. Something that my mentor passed on to me is anytime you have to approach something like with bad news and you have to be like, this isn't going to work, it's always to approach it in a Socratic method, going up to them and be like, so hey, I see that this is the picture car. The script said that it was supposed to have this license plate on it, but art department doesn't have that license plate. What would you like to do? And then look at the floor.
Then
look at the floor.
Interesting. Look at the floor.
Because what it does on a biological level is it makes you not seem like you're, what do you call that? You're
confrontational?
Yeah, you're confrontational. It takes that away from them. And it also allows them to just let it land on them and take a second to breathe and think, because you're not just staring at them being like, And in that same attitude, it's coming solution forward, thinking solution minded, and being like, okay, well, if the license plate isn't here, we're not doing a wide shot. We're just doing a shot where we're seeing this. But if we do see the car starting to drive, at least I can let the director know, hey, when the car starts to drive, the shot's dead after, we see the bumper, because we're going to see the license plate, and it's not the right license plate. So even in that situation, it's going up to him and saying, so our department doesn't have the license plate. I know that was kind of key because it's part of the character, but we're doing a medium shot where we're only seeing the front. So if you want the car to drive off, just note I'm going to put in my notes that the shot's dead after he leaves frame. That it's nothing else after that is usable. And usually after looking at the floor, the director goes, oh yeah, that's a fantastic idea. Like, thank you for bringing that to my attention. And they usually love that. So that's one of the things. And then the other thing is, don't be attached to monitor. Don't be attached to monitor. And that's kind of a controversial topic in the script supervisor land too, because yes, we need to see what is happening on the frame. And with everything being digital, it's a very different realm than working in film, because in film, you rehearsed it, you knew exactly where everything was going. Basically, what you saw was what you were going to get. But being digital now, all of a sudden, the DP will start on a close-up, and you think it's a close-up of character A, and in mid-thing, they're like, swing to character B. Nobody told them to swing, but they're swinging now. And so that's where it's kind of crucial to have monitor. But at the same time, you should be able to do your script supervision tasks of following continuity, lines, movement, all that, without a monitor. So those are the two main things that I try to stress the best.
Okay, that's interesting. So be confident, but not confrontive.
Yes.
Be and don't be afraid to bring up subjects, because that's the last thing you want with the scripty, is to not bring up the mistakes.
Right, because I've had directors that have come to me and been like, I can't believe my last script supervisor stayed so quiet, and I didn't realize until I got in post. And I mean, us script supervisors, we come in a range. There's me, who's more on the collaborative, that wants to be on the inside baseball game and be right there ready for you. But then there are the script supervisors that sit at their station, they don't move, they really don't speak outside of maybe to one or two people on the set, and everybody's questioning what they're doing because they're just there. And so there is a range of us, but when you, as a producer or a director or even somebody on set, take a gauge and be like, okay, is this someone that is more interactive and collaborative, or is this someone who's not going to be that, and do I need to pester them if something's going wrong? Or if I feel something's wrong, let me take my gut and go to them and be like, so what's happening? So it just really depends, but you gotta be willing to bring up when something's wrong's happening, because you're there in service of the script. That is number one priority. It's not and sometimes I even have to put aside and be like, I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to make long-term connections, but if they see that I didn't bring up this one huge error, that's going to jeopardize me working with them ever again, because they're going to go, Rose should have said something. And that's going to be something that's going to forever live, because that's in post. You can't go back and change a clip in post and say, oh, no, I didn't make that mistake. Look, you get to do that in the moment in production on set. So, you have to sometimes take that precedence and treat it as if you have to. It's not a question.
Have you personally ever been in a situation where you're like, ooh, I don't know if I should bring this up?
Oh yeah, especially when it's my own error. We did a pretty heavy duty stunt day on a short film that I was doing, and the way that we were shooting it, the director really wasn't communicative of what part of the fight scene we were in. So, because there went from one part where they're fighting in normal clothes, and then all of a sudden an explosion is supposed to happen, so there's a different kind of wardrobe, because obviously they're in scraps, and then there's another explosion, and then they're in very different wardrobe where it's next to none. But the director wasn't very vocal, and even though I tried keeping going up to him, I was like, so what part is this? Where are we in this? And are we shooting it? Because we didn't shoot that chronological at all.
Okay.
But it ended up coming to a point where I was keeping pretty good track, and I thought I was where we were. And after the second take, I had to drop everything, and I was like, guys, I am so sorry that I let this go 2 takes, but he is in the wrong wardrobe. And we need to switch it because he should be in this other shirt. And I was dreading that, because I was trying so hard to be on top of it and be ready for those kinds of things, and it just slipped through my fingers. And I went to the director and I straight up apologized. I was like, look, I apologize, but here's how we're able to do it right. It'll be in my notes. Just know that this is what happened. And nobody on set took it to heart as much as I did, which is nice because obviously, you know, it's nice to know that they're supportive of me when something goes wrong, that they're not like hating on me. And it gives me that boost in confidence to be like, okay, if I had to bring it up again, if something happened like that again, they wouldn't question it and they would just be willing to say, okay, cool, thanks, bro, we really appreciate it, thank you for being on top of it. But like, I'm sure a few more of those and they would have been like, But yeah, I mean, you gotta be able to like swallow that nasty pill and be like, all right, well, would I rather just never work with these guys again? Or would I rather just be like, well, here's the mistake, and this is how we can fix it. Yeah.
Okay, so we talked about your script supervising and what important it is. And when you're originally from Denver, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Denver, Colorado. Mm-hmm. Not going to say go Broncos.
Yes, go Broncos.
But and you came out here to originally be an actress, and I'm guessing that didn't work out.
It's in progress.
It's in progress. Okay, we'll just say it's in progress.
Yeah.
What turned you on to script supervision? Because out of all the things that you would choose, I mean, most people don't even know what a script supervisor does.
Right.
So what brought that to light for you?
Well, it's interesting because when I was out here and I wasn't getting consistent acting work and I was looking for something to make some money, when I was in Colorado, I worked on a feature film called Valentine's Day. I don't know if it's even still available. It was like this little small indie film that like got a little bit of airtime in Denver and a couple film festivals. But when I was working on that, because I auditioned to be the lead role in that. And the director saw that I had a fire and a spark for filmmaking. So he was like, I can't give you the role. Somebody was better, but come be on set. And I was basically just a PA, but the first scene up, we did take one and then we did take two. And I was the first one to point out that the actress had her purse in different arms. And so, like, when I was here, I was, like, thinking of other things that I could do that I maybe already had an affinity for. And I was like, well, what about script supervision? And then I happened to be coming across on Mandy, which I think is dead now, but Mandy.com used to be a thing.
Fuck Mandy.
I know. But I happened to be looking for acting gigs on there because I was like, well, there's castings, let me see. And then there happened to be an ad for my acting mentor that said, want to learn script supervision, maybe like continuity? Call me.
Oh, really?
And I was like, well, that's kind of interesting that kind of came up at the same time of me reflecting back on what else I could do. So that's why I kind of fell into it. And then the thought after that was, well, I'm right next to the director. If I do a good line reading,
which
obviously has happened, but like that died after probably 6 months into doing the job. Because I was like, yeah, most directors that I work for, that's usually the only project they do for at least 7 to 8 months, sometimes a year. So like, but it was nice to be able to be like, all right, well, I still get to play as an actor. I still get to do certain things as an actor. It's just different. So yeah, I still try to do a little bit of here and there in front of the camera, but it's not. I try to do it on other people's projects.
We were talking before we even got started. You have other projects. You have an internet game show, I think you were telling me about.
Yes, I do.
Why don't you tell me about that internet game show?
Yeah, so I do a lot of things. I produce and direct. I'm an overall anomaly as far as the industry is concerned. I claim myself as the secret Hollywood doesn't know exists because I do so much. But the game show that I'm doing, it's called Buzzed Out. And I produce it with Pasadena's local access channel, the Arroyo channel. And it's Jeopardy meets Double Dare.
Okay.
So the contestants, in order to buzz in to these general knowledge trivia questions, they have to complete a physical challenge to answer. So sometimes that's as simple as like putting your hand in pudding, or it's as hard as putting your face on a dead fish, or throwing a ball into an itty bitty basket. Like, we do a ton of different types of challenges. We just finished our first season with the Arroyo channel. So we're looking forward to doing more, but that's what I produce and direct, and it's very different mindset than a script supervisor because it's multicam and it's live to tape. So yeah.
Oh, nice. And what made you how did you come up with this idea of like, I've got to make people do shit before they can answer questions?
Well, that was my boyfriend. So my boyfriend's obsessed with game shows and he always wanted to be a game show host. I have been producing stuff since 2008. So when I came across the Arroyo channel and Pasadena Media, it's a wonderful resource. Like, everybody, please take advantage of it. And I think there's even, if you're not here in LA, like there's probably an access station close to you that has this, but you get the soundstage, you get the equipment, you get all the resources you need for free. And because there's other people trying to learn and grow, they'll more than likely be willing to volunteer for free on your show to make it happen. And I was like, this is amazing because I can finally do something more than just a run and gun shooting on my iPhone type style film. I can actually do a legit thing. So when I found out about them and I went through all their pre-courses to get qualified to use the studio, I was trying to think of shows to do, and I didn't have anything written, which is rare for me. But we were like, well, why don't we just do a game show? It seemed simple, and he's obsessed with Double Dare. He's really good friends with Mark Summers, and so he was like, let's just do it. And this was before we knew Double Dare was coming back. We're like, okay, well, Double Dare's never coming back, so let's make a show like it. And then we found out Double Dare was coming back. But yeah, so that's the inspiration behind it. Is we love Double Dare, we loved trivia, and we wanted to do a game show, so that's how it kind of came together.
Okay, Ro. Well, that's all the time we have for
all
today.
Right, man.
I'm missing part of my football game right now.
No! Oh, who's your team again?
The Los Angeles Rams.
Okay.
Now,
no hate, man.
Now,
no hate.
Don't get me wrong. I hated them I loved them when they were here as younger.
Yes.
Hated them when they left. They could.
Yes.
I said they can go fuck themselves because they won a Super Bowl when they left.
Yes, of course.
They didn't win anything, and now they're back. And I hated them, and I made a decision. I'm like, okay, we're like an ex-girlfriend and boyfriend getting back together.
Yes.
And I just don't like the Chargers.
Yeah, but I just don't like the Chargers. But at least it's not dysfunctional like it was when they left, because they haven't won the Super Bowl yet.
But they will. They'll probably win this year. They're
doing amazing. So yes.
Except they don't really have much of a defense, so. Their whole object is we're going to score more than you.
Sounds like the Broncos right now too, so it's all good.
Okay, so if anybody wants to contact you, get a hold of you, wants you to produce something for them, wants you to be a script for them, how do they get a hold of you, Ro?
All right, the best way to get a hold of me is through email. My email is romore@gmail.com, so my first name, last name @gmail.com. Or if they want to take a look at what I've been doing, my website is Pie, and that's like the slice of pie, so PIE productions.com.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for coming, Ro. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. This was incredible.
Oh yeah, you're the first one on my on the official YouTube site.
That's exciting.
All right, Ro. You have a good day, and
You
thanks
too.
for anybody who's even going to bother to watch this.